North Smithfield Town Council meeting, June 3rd, 2024. Madam Clerk, can you start us with the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Here.
Mrs. O'Hara? Here. Mr. Osier?
Here.
Ms. Alves?
Here. Before we go into open forum, just want to let everyone know that we will be postponing the public hearing for High Rocks to date certain of August 19th, but tonight we will do the first reading, correct?
Correct. Madam President, we're going to just take item C out of order, if the council would, so we could identify it and have a vote to continue both the matter for a second reading and a public hearing, date certain, August 19th, 2024.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion to move that?
I'll make a motion to move the agenda item. I'll make a motion to move the agenda item.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Osier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Okay, and then make a motion to,
Yes, for the record, Madam President, the Attorney Charles Renahan III is present. By agreement and request, the matter is going to be, the item is down today for first reading, and it will be continued for public hearing, which I know has been advertised for tonight, so the public hearing will be continued for a date certain to August 19th, and also the matter will be heard for a second reading at that time.
okay.
Motion to continue for a public hearing on August 19th and second reading.
Okay, someone like to make that motion, please?
I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing until August 19th and to continue for second reading and to accept first reading.
Right.
Second.
Wait, did I miss something, David?
The only thing I want to say is, for the record, obviously, this matter involves a petition by the applicant for a zone change, which requires both a process here at the council and a process at the planning board, and those steps going to take several processes, at least 5 steps to get it done.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Osier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes, thank you. All right, going back up to open forum, non-agenda items only pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Oh. Sure. Did you want to just sign this? Oops. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Rebecca DeCristofaro, 1931 Pound Hill Road. My question is in relation to the Material Sand and Stone Corporation, Pound Hill Realty LLC versus the Town of North Smithfield litigation. I was hoping, and I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but I was hoping to understand why last week's court hearing for the entry of the final dismissal was canceled. It is my understanding, based on correspondence with the Superior Court Deputy Clerk, that it was canceled by request of the defendant and the defendant being the Town of North Smithfield. So I don't know how much can be shared, but I was just hoping if any insight could be provided that we could have an understanding. I think the court hearing was actually moved to June 21st, so that puts us out another month of, moving this towards resolution.
Madam President, Attorney, I'm responsible for this matter, indicated that the matter got pushed back to Judge Procaccini, who had heard the matter. Judge Procaccini is going to hear arguments on the 21st of June. If he enters a final decree on the matter, then it'll be subject to appeal to the Supreme Court. If he doesn't, then it's got to go to trial in Superior Court on the remaining count, because one count has not been resolved, and that's a constitutional claim, and that would have to go to trial, and then at the end of trial, it will become final, and then an appeal. So it might be ruled upon on June 21st, and then subject to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Or it may be just scheduled for trial on, because there's a constitutional claim that's also attached to the, so it's got many, I hate to say it, many months more, as frustrating as that may be. It has much more time in court, and they're entitled to their due process rights. And even though
Yep.
we're in a difficult position in the town, as we know, and I know Mr. Christopher is aware of it as well, but that's the best I can offer you today.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate that insight. And I don't know if I can ask a clarifying question or if you're able to share
Sure.
it in this forum. But the constitutional claim, could you shed any light on what that claim is?
They're arguing a due process violation, and the merits of that, I would consider questionable,
Okay. Okay.
and which, at least from the town's perspective.
Okay.
From our perspective, we do not believe it's going to be successful.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for the time.
Did anyone else want to sign up for open forum? One more time, anyone else want to sign up for open forum? Okay, thank you. Before we continue on, could someone entertain a motion to move up item, new business A, please?
I'll make a motion to move up item A under new business.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Osier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Okay, next item is new business, discussion by council vote or other action on ordinance amending Chapter 5, Article 10 of North Smithfield Code of Ordinance by adding Section 5-78.1, establishing the position of Human Resource Manager, and this would be the continuation of the public hearing and also the second reading.
Do you want me to make a motion to open the public hearing?
Please.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Would anyone like to get up and speak in regards to the public hearing? Mr. Zimmerman? Would you like to get up, please?
Madam
can-
President,
Yeah.
maybe I could just introduce.
Yeah,
so-
if Mr. Zimmerman just wants to go to the
Again,
podium.
pursuant to your request, Madam President, Don Zimmerman, who worked as a consultant for the town on this matter, was asked, and I asked him to come today and just explain this position and the way he crafted it and how it interacts with the union contract to avoid any conflict.
Correct.
So I'll turn it over to Mr. Zimmerman, and I think you've all met him at least once, I hope.
I believe so.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for coming.
So I think you have the job description that was drafted. Couple things I'd like to say about it. One, it's kind of an adaptation of just a generic human resource manager job description. You already have a position in the town that handles a lot of what I would describe as transactional duties that have to do with payroll and benefits. And that job really wouldn't affect the other position. That job is part, when I say that job, I mean your payroll and benefits coordinator. That position is part of a bargaining unit, and the state has certified the bargaining unit as the representative for people in certain jobs. And one of the jobs was, I think, the predecessor of that job. So one of the pieces of advice I might give you is if, as you go forward, if you decide to hire a person in either a part-time job, a full-time job, an organization to provide this service, or an individual to provide this service on a contracting basis, you should be careful that you don't infringe upon that bargaining unit work. And I think it would be pretty easy not to infringe because, as I said, most of those duties that you see in the job description of that position are what I would describe as transactional, clerical job duties. And it would probably be a waste of money to pay somebody who was in personnel or HR manager to do that anyway. But it is something to keep in mind. I don't know if you have any questions for me about it. I can certainly try to answer any
So
questions you have.
In your field, I mean, you go to different towns and you basically work on contract for HR.
Yeah,
You've been in some of the bigger cities, correct?
Primarily in Gloucester. I've done some work with other towns too, and I've had actual jobs back when I was somewhat younger with some municipalities. But I work in Gloucester now and essentially go in 1 or 2 days a week as needed and field phone calls and emails and, you know, whatever is needed. I think smaller employers like Gloucester and perhaps like North Smithfield, whether or not they need a full-time person, I mean, it's going to be an expense to do that. You know, you may be able to find your solution with a part-time person, a contractor, or perhaps a service that may provide some of that. I don't think the nature of the availability is going to be much different depending on what you choose. You know, normally in Gloucester, I can tell you the experience is if there's an issue, my phone rings or I get an email, and if I'm in the country and available, you know, I respond to it.
Right.
Whether or not you'll be able to find somebody like that, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a special case because I'm retired and, you know, I don't essentially earn a living doing this, so.
So with your experience in the different municipalities, how does it benefit, obviously, having an individual on site versus a contractor or, you know, a company that might sit in New York or California or something? Obviously.
Yeah, certainly if you're comparing to some national consulting organization, the kind of continuity that you're going to have with a part-time individual or even a contractor. In other words, in Gloucester, I know all the council people, I know all the department heads, I know most of the employees by now. So you get some familiarity with people, you understand issues, and I think that makes it a little easier. Right. And you may be able to find someone in the community that has done this and is available and interested in doing it. It all depends really on what you decide your needs are, because they vary from town to town. I mean, I've been in human resource jobs where I resolved all the grievances with unions. I negotiated the labor contracts. In smaller communities, that usually doesn't happen. In fact, I think the charter in North Smithfield actually specifically says that the town administrator negotiates contracts. And regardless of whether you hire a full-time person, a part-time person, arrange with some contracting organization, or get an individual consultant, that function will still report through the town administrator. It's an administrative function.
Right. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for coming this evening. So when you say part-time, are you thinking 1 or 2 days a week, full days, or a couple of half days, or, I mean?
Well, it's hard for me to tell you what your need is. I mean, I've spent a couple days here talking to people, but clearly I don't have a huge grasp for, what you may feel your HR need is.
Right.
And, Paul may actually have an idea about that, because the kind of things that get done by a personnel director, HR manager, don't go away just because you don't have somebody with that title. Somebody is doing those things here for the most part. Maybe some of them drop off the table, but some of them get picked up by department heads and other managers and supervisors. So it's a question of how much of that you want to channel into a new position. In Gloucester, my usual schedule is 1 day a week. I go in for 6 or 7 hours. And that, I might get a couple of calls at home during the week. If I'm interviewing for a position, I might have to come in a second or even a third time. I occasionally go to the council meetings, but usually only if there's something that, council needs to ask me about. So it's not a regular occurrence.
So I think similar to what you were saying in Gloucester, we would like to have someone establish relationships to some degree so that people feel comfortable, there's some familiarity, you get to kind of know the quirks of people, you get to know the personalities, you can almost anticipate, what
Right.
might come up given that you've had some experiences with them, as opposed to, and I guess this is something that, we're still in the process of discussing, hiring a firm that has less of an intimacy with the staff, may not get to know them as well, and may be removed. And we've never had this position, so we don't know which one would work best, and what we don't want, I think, is right now to incur additional expenses with a full-time person and benefits and everything at this point. That's not. We haven't even begun to try this process yet, right? So,
I mean, I'd be surprised if your need is for a full-time
right.
personnel director, personnel manager, HR manager, whatever you determine to call it. My experience has been primarily with smaller employers, or I was in Pawtucket for several years, and there the mayor didn't negotiate contracts, and the council doesn't negotiate contracts or resolve grievances. I mean, you're going to be talking to department heads and a mayor or administrator about resolving it. But you have a different situation here than I had in Pawtucket. And I don't know what the situation is here, but in a lot of the smaller employers, grievances are truly a rare thing. They don't happen very often. You may get, 1 a year, 2 a year, or something like that. A place like Providence, you may get 10 a week. So yeah, I suspect that you don't have that degree of volume with labor relations issues. Employee relations issues, I suppose you have the disagreements between supervisors and employees, an occasional complaint, harassment or discrimination complaint. You have religious and disability accommodations to consider. So you should be looking for someone who's familiar with those things. A lot of the benefit things are transactional, as I said. You're not making a decision on them. An insurance provider is making a decision on it. Or the pension board is making a decision on it. You may be able to help somebody get an answer, but you're probably not going to influence that answer.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question? It sounds like Gloucester's pretty lucky that they found you.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I only say that because you're, like you said, finding somebody in your position that is able to accommodate a part-time position like that.
Right.
But in lieu of
And
not-
hasn't moved to Florida already.
Right,
Yeah.
so in lieu of not being able to find somebody like you, would a consultant or a local firm be able to achieve the same thing?
You know, I'm not that familiar with whoever's in the marketplace now. There was a time 20, 25 years ago when I was familiar with some consulting firms and even used them, particularly for recruiting. You find that with recruiting. Although recruiting in a municipality is kind of a unique situation. It's a little different than private sector recruiting. So I really can't speak that much on who's in the market. I mean, yeah, if you could find somebody like me, particularly somebody who lives in this area and will give you 5, 10 hours a week, that might be your solution. Whether they're part of an organization or whether it's just somebody who's tired of watching his or her grass grow.
But like you had mentioned, and I think that's probably what I'm thinking too, is just having the face on property and being, getting familiar with everybody and everyone
Yeah.
getting familiar with that person.
Yeah.
So they're not just picking up a call, they're making a call to some company, they have no idea who they're speaking to, there's no interaction, there's no, I don't know, I just don't feel like there's gonna be that connection, and I don't know if that's really gonna serve the purpose that we're trying to do, is to have employees feel like they have someone that they can go to should they have any questions or any concerns, that there's that comfortable
Yeah.
relation,
I mean, certainly over the last few years, with the decline of employers who have administrative offices in Rhode Island, there are just a lot fewer HR people in Rhode Island than maybe there were 30 years ago. And a lot of the functions have been outsourced to organizations that usually specialize in one sliver of the HR function. They're not usually generalist organizations. They may be recruiting firms, they may be benefits consultants. I think once you get into things like employee relations and labor relations, I'm not really aware of anybody who does that. I think most people just call a labor attorney or an employment law attorney when it gets to that point. I mean, one of the advantages I have in Gloucester is, even though I'm not an attorney, I have a lot of experience, and I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, so I think I've learned from some of those mistakes. And, sometimes you can diffuse things before you need an attorney. But you also need to make sure that whoever you have knows when they need an attorney, and, not try to play one on TV,
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? So as you can probably tell, there's two competing schools of thought. One saying firm, the other saying hire or part-time. Everybody's kind of in agreement on the fundamentals, but just on
Yeah.
the execution of it. What are your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I'm not that familiar with the market out there for firms that do this. I think if you could find someone who either does this is their job, if you will, they're a full-time HR consultant, and most of the ones I know have retired, unfortunately, at this point. That would probably be the preferable way to go. But whether or not you can find someone like that, I'm not sure. And, You know, it's Rhode Island, and you're up in a corner of the state, and nobody wants to cross the bridge. So whether you could get somebody who lives in Barrington or Tiverton, you know, I don't want to sound negative, but those are the realities of trying to find someone in a role like that.
So that's probably why we would have to go out, and whether we can find mother's hours or a retired individual or someone, you know, just a supplemental income, or also a firm. I guess we would have to see what comes in and would be the best purpose. But, you know, I think Mr. Beauregard's point was, you know, if we have a firm and we have an issue at, like, you know, 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, and we just have an HR person sitting in property, how is someone going to handle that? But if they're a manager, they could be called, but then really no one's really work other than police, where they have their own.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you in Gloucester, and going on 5 years now, we've never had an HR issue at 10 o'clock
Right,
at night.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's going to wait till Monday, or, you know. whatever.
usually they can, yes. I mean, I'm not always available. I could be on vacation.
Right.
I take showers. I do everything that everybody else does, you know, so
That's good.
you're not there, whether it's an
Waiting,
organization.
yeah.
There are some bigger organizations that are national and have, you know, call centers. And those people should be at least, I would hope, familiar with, you know, human resource related laws, employment law, and I don't know how many of those people might be. I mean, what's happened in this country, and even in Rhode Island, is people that have much labor law knowledge are really hard to find, because there aren't any unions left, and they're almost entirely in government employers.
Well, I think then,
Can
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, can I ask a question? You mentioned how you use Gloucester a lot as an example, and it's probably because you're familiar with it, but you mentioned that we may not yet know our HR needs. I asked it at the last meeting, and I was wondering, have you, in any of your experience, seen municipalities maybe share a resource?
I have not. It's something that certainly sounds like a good idea. I can tell you that in doing the work that I've done for you, and being in Gloucester at the same time, I had a number of positions open in Gloucester that, had I not been doing work for you, I may have been trying to recruit your employees to fill those positions. And that's where I see the problem. I felt it would have been a conflict of interest for me to do that while I was working for you, so I didn't do it. I'm not saying everybody would be that magnanimous, but that's the kind of problem you run into when you are sometimes competing for other resources too.
Right, no, I
Yeah.
agree. Thank you.
No, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming.
thank you
You know,
very
it was
much.
helpful so everyone else could understand what you know, were doing while you were here.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So long.
Anyone else want to speak during the public hearing? CJ, can we have the timer on, please? Please refrain to 3 minutes.
Suzanne Bernier, 7 Lamprey Road, Secretary to the Personnel Board. The Personnel Board has reviewed the job description that you people did, and we're asking if the question is of the manager is the correct title. No. A training specialist would be better. Training and staff development appear to be the missing function. There is no evidence that the coordinator, finance director, or town administrator has requested additional support. In terms of North Smithfield personnel roster expanding, the answer is no substantial increase. In the past 5 years, 5 positions have been added. 2, including the benefit and payroll coordinator, were expansion of duties. The final full or part-time question is not relevant. The facts do not support moving this position forward. This brings us full circle. Human resource management is a vital professional role in local government. A single hiring decision can impact the entire community. Challenges across all human resources functions are expanding as the workforce shrinks. Norms are changed, and employees' expectation of employers are increasing. Harvard Business Review included. Don't settle with the status quo. Keep encouraging people to think big and innovate as an excellent best practice of effective government. Should we be considering the role of human resources in navigating AI, mitigating natural disasters, or safety managing the next unprecedented event? If the town of North Smithfield is ready to invest in additional human resource management, let's invest time now in thinking through the complexity of future local government human resource challenges.
Anyone else like to speak? Could you please stay at the 3-minute mark, please? Thank you.
I won't be that long. My name is Robert Gernon. I live at 74 Westwood Road, North Smithfield, obviously. I'm the chairman of the Personnel Board. I wasn't able to come to that meeting. I was going to read that. What I was taken aback by was I was kind of upset when you shot her down. I timed some of these. I've been timing some of the people that have spoken, and they've gone over significantly more than what she did. And we're never told. As a member of the board, we're only trying to help this town. And you shoot her down for not wanting allowed to be speaking, just to finish that. I just wanted to be noted, I was quite taken aback, and I'm sure I didn't like the way she was treated. I'm on 2 boards, the Juvenile Hearing Board, Personnel Board. Now, I have to stop and think, do I still want to serve on these boards if they're going to be treated like this? Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I'd like to, I did a little experiment last week, and I called and asked one of the an employee who's been here for a number of years, if there was any type of handbook or guidance or any type of literature that was available and handed to them as employees as to what to do if they faced the situation that Ms. Ravito had faced. And that employee could tell me nothing and had not been provided with something, or she even went to look on the bulletin board to see if there was anything posted there, because I said sometimes these types of things are posted on the bulletin boards. So, you know, that's a red flag to me, that when the employees don't know what the protocol is. And have you given all the employees a handbook explaining what the process is for complaints of that nature?
When you say you, Mr. Clifford, are you referring to me in my position as town administrator?
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, Mr. Clifford, there is no book of that nature. It is before the personnel board. They're crafting one at this moment.
Okay, then, well, that's a concern, and that highlights the need for having a personnel director, human resources director. And I agree with the training could be part of that. The other thing is, I don't know who posts the information from the Department of Labor about, and the Department of Health for health notices for the employees, and who's in charge of making sure that we're discussing and publishing the reports on the asbestos within the buildings, which is required by law. So those are all things that I think have not been addressed that they should have been. But I would like to suggest to you that since we just had a case that was handled here, you hired an investigator to investigate. Where's the report? And I'd encourage you to read the report. And this thing almost went to trial. I'm sure there were depositions. Read the depositions. Find out how it worked, what were the flaws, and what needs to be done. But you're not going to do it in a vacuum. You need to get some of those documents and read them and review them. Strongly suggest you do it. Thank you.
Madam President? Okay, be acknowledged, please.
Yes.
Mr. Clifford, as far as HR, state regulations, anything that requires posting, it is done by the payroll and benefits coordinator. As far as asbestos, when we receive that through the Department of Public Works or it comes to our town, it's posted in the bulletin board.
Who posts the asbestos?
That I'm not, it would fall under, because it was a building, it would fall under either the building zoning official or the director of public works.
Well, I don't think it's been posted in, like, for example, the police station. And not even only the issue of posting it, but we had a building committee that went into closed session with the police chief to discuss asbestos in the building. I don't think that's kosher, and I don't think that's within the law. I mean, it's an employee's right to know what the problems of asbestos are within the building. I took more than my 3 minutes. I don't want to get...
Actually, your minutes weren't started, Mr. Clifford.
Huh?
Your minutes weren't started, for the
okay.
record.
Oh,
So, but,
No, they were started, and then CJ just started them over when he came back.
okay.
So he was, so.
So he was started
I don't want it
before.
out there that Mr.
Okay.
Clifford wasn't timed.
So,
I don't think
Mr.
it's-
Clifford, do you feel that the asbestos warnings were not posted at the police station? You feel, or do you know they were or were not posted?
I don't believe they, well, Paul, I'm not going to say for sure they weren't.
Can we
But
just
I
keep
am
point
gonna
of order that we're talking about the HR position, though?
Yeah, but that's what I'm bringing up, that it should be, that should be something that the HR person should be handling, to make sure that one person in the whole system is dealing with those things, and I don't think they are.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak during the public hearing on a HR position?
I'd like to say something from here. If the head of the department knows something's coming in from the state, they should put it on the bulletin board where they're working. You don't have to be a brain surgeon for that. They get these all the time. Copy machine and put it up. Or have a small discussion within your department. This isn't a state department with hundreds of people. It should be able to be done very simply.
I think what Mr. Clifford is asking, is there a designed protocol to follow and that everyone's aware of it? I think that's what he's asking.
Well, anything came out when I was in school, it was posted in the teacher's room.
And I'll reiterate that the payroll and benefits coordinator has been posting all these informational pieces. If anybody cares to walk up those stairs and look at the bulletin board, you'll see them posted. Care to walk into the break room, you'll see them posted.
Would anyone else like to speak during public hearing? One more time, anyone like to speak? Anyone?
I actually think that I want to say something.
Go ahead.
If you don't mind. I already mentioned my name, Rebecca Christopher, 1931 Pound Hill Road. I am an HR senior manager for a Fortune 4 company, and I think as we think of an HR manager role for the town, I think we need to think a bit more comprehensively. So it's not just managing grievances, it's not just oversight of guidelines, but how could this position also help us in recruitment in the future? When roles do become available, can we ensure that we're really leveraging our networks to ensure that we're getting like the most appropriate talent? How are we managing talent within our positions, right? How are we ensuring that employees do know their rights and feel supported in having somebody on site, not just to hear grievances, but just to understand how to navigate the town and their rights as an employee official. So I think that we have to think and change management, right? If we have any things that change within this building, how can this management role support the change management and delivering on those different solutions or programs? So I think it's an appropriate role. I think that it's warranted. I think that you have to think of it as an HR business partner. It's a representative for the town employees, and I just wanted to mention that we can think more comprehensively than just airing grievances with this role.
Rebecca, can I just ask you a quick question? You still have a few minutes, little bit. So being an HR professional, obviously you're on property probably most of the time, or pretty much being able to be communicated with.
Yep.
So I'm sure that you find it more beneficial to have somebody there rather than some of these companies that handle it off-site. I'm just asking your point of view since you handle it on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, we've been working mostly remote for the last 3 years, and I will say that in working remote, there definitely seems to be more of a disconnect where you're not readily available to colleagues to be able to come to your office and sit down with you and feel like they're speaking in confidence and picking up a phone or trying to get on a Zoom meeting. You're just not as easily accessible. You lose that face-to-face engagement. So, and being in the office and being readily available to colleagues, I think that they really feel like they have just an HR person that they can talk to in confidence and really get to know and feel comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else like to speak during the public hearing? One more time, anyone like to speak? Do you want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Osier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. And then did we want to review the ordinance and make any changes prior to accepting it as a second reading?
The only, Madam President, the only change I would recommend is just removing of the part-time human resource manager. I just think, well, the need is probably part-time or whatever we decide,
Right.
consultant or whatever. I just think if it ends up evolving to a full-time, it's just another step that the town would have to go to amend the ordinance. Well, it's not drastic, why even put the
Right.
word in there now?
I totally agree with you.
So you lost me there. You're saying that you want it to be
No, I'm just
possibly a
saying just-
full-time position?
No, no, no. Don't
No.
put words, John.
No, that's why I'm asking.
No, it's a
No.
good question, no. I agree with you, and I probably was confusing, so I apologize. I'm just saying, just remove part-time. If it can, it's probably gonna be part-time, it could very well be a consultant. But I just think, why put any need there, right? What happens if it does become full-time? We'd have to go back and update this, or somebody will have to go back and update this thing.
Like say in 5
So
years.
you're saying
So in the future,
remove the word part-time?
Yeah, so it just reads,
creation of the position.
position of a human
and
resource manager
determine the
who shall be
needs
appointed.
as we go along.
Correct. That way we're not really stipulating how many hours or.
Yeah, just get rid of
what
part-time.
kind of employment it's gonna be. It's kind of
Well,
open
that's
and then
good.
we can,
Go out
whatever
to
we need to
bid.
do with it,
Right.
yeah.
Then it just becomes a budget conversation at
Okay.
that point, right?
Mhm.
That was a good
Anyone else
question,
have
Joe.
anything else they wanted to,
I
change
just
or
don't know how we're
modify?
gonna find somebody
Well, we won't know until we
like,
go out there.
like this gentleman that was here. I mean, well, so basically, we're looking for someone who's retired that's willing to work a
Not
few hours a
necessarily,
week.
it could be mother's hours, it could be someone who's just maybe wants supplemental income that already is in the HR field, there's so many ways, I mean, like she said, like Rebecca was saying, she works from home, there might be other HR professionals who work from home that can probably do a day or so in the office, or like a longer day, or, I mean, we're not saying we're setting the hours for certain hours, if we find the right individual, we can obviously work with the hours that individual has, you know? Because it's new, right? So we only know that, yes, it's probably something we should bring in, but until we actually get moving with somebody and know exactly how many hours and what days, it's gonna be a work in progress.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming this passes tonight, what are the next steps? I know, to Mr. Biergart's point, what's the execution look like? I know it falls on the town administrator, but what are the next steps? I mean, in theory, this position could be proved and not filled. So is there a thing we could put, like, if it's not filled within 90 days, then we can reassess and the council can drive that action, or what? I'm just curious. I just don't want to see us creating a position, it sits in the budget, people are taxed on it for in the budget process, and then we never fill it. It just sits there. It's my only concern.
Well, I haven't seen anything ever done like that before, putting some sort of time limit on when it be filled, when a job to be filled. I would think that if it's not filled, you can put it on the agenda and ask what steps have been taken. Because the council sets the policy and the administration is supposed to execute that policy.
Okay.
There's a lot of policies by mayors and administrators and governors that they don't like, but the General Assembly said the policy will be executed, they have to execute it. So I mean, at the end of the day, without getting into the weeds here, you put it on the agenda and say, what steps have you taken to fill this position?
Okay. Anyone else have any other
Yeah,
questions?
so, suppose we do approve it tonight, and then we advertise, not happening. Then can we turn around without changing, coming back to the council without changing the ordinance, can we turn around and say, all right, well, we tried that route, now we gotta try to expand our horizons a little bit, and maybe look for a firm or a consultant that's available, and then take it to that next step.
I think when you remove the words part-time, it opens the window to do part-time, full-time, consulting contract as a person or a consulting company.
Okay.
I think the
It's
window is
broad.
wide
You're
That
open.
way we're
limiting
not
yourself.
restricting ourselves. Now we can, it's a
Yeah.
broader field.
It's too limited.
Okay.
So, just for our discussion, you would agree that if we give this time and we try our best to find an individual, if it doesn't work out, then we have to find another way?
I mean, we have to
Yeah, I
start
don't disagree with
somewhere,
that.
right?
No, I
And then
agree.
if that's our only avenue, and then we find out it doesn't work, then we have time to find the individual, or, you know, we have to start somewhere. And we don't know until we start putting it out there what we might get, you know.
I like that we're broadening it a bit,
Yeah,
you know, instead of restricting ourselves, because I don't think it is gonna be that easy.
Yeah, I don't
So
either.
we may want to, you know, by expanding it and the potential for any variety of an option, it gives us more leverage.
mhm. All right, anyone else have any more questions? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 5, Article 10 of the North Smithfield Code of Ordinances by adding Section 5-78.1, establishing the position of Human Resources Manager, creating the position of a Human Resources Manager who shall be appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the Town Administrator.
Madam,
And then removing part-time.
well, why don't you make a
Any
second,
other
why don't you
time.
make a second on that motion first?
Okay,
So I'll second, and then for discussion, I would just say that there's additional part-times in the rest of the ordinance, so I would amend the second sentence, or.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to amend
Remove.
there's three of them.
the part-time from the second sentence, so it would read, "The human resource manager is directly responsible to and takes direction from the director of finance, and in general from the town administrator. The position of human resource manager is not in a classified service and shall be," I think that's the last one.
Can I clarify for you, Mr. VP?
Yeah.
I looked at the word part-time is in the ordinance 3 times.
Yeah,
I
so
think
just
you
move
just
it
make a
2 times.
motion to strike the words part-time wherever it appears.
That
If
works.
there's a second to that motion, and that motion gets approved, then you can move the main motion as amended.
Okay,
Okay, I'll second that motion.
all right, we have a motion to second. Any further discussion?
So I would just like to make a point that originally I was against this, 100%, I was all against it. And then I did my homework. I talked to people that own small businesses, I talked to some people that own large businesses, and without everybody across the board was surprised that we didn't have a human resource manager, and that I'm convinced that we do need somebody this position. So I have come around, and I'm gonna vote yes on this, because I've done my homework, and I have asked a lot of people that own small businesses, and the only difference is they have all said the model that they've gone to was the consulting, but nevertheless, we do need this position.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
That's on the amendment.
That's on the amendment to take out part-time.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. And now we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance as amended, correct? Okay. So we have a
Why don't you
motion.
make that, just to clarify, could you just indicate that?
Do you want to restate your motion that you're approving as amended?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 5, Article 10, as amended of the North Smithfield Code of Ordinances by adding Section 5-78.1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
No.
Mr. Osier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. All right, back up to discussion by council vote or other action on payment of bills. Did anyone have any questions on the payment of bills in your packet?
I do.
Go ahead.
Please. So on page 3, 1, 2, 3, they're not numbered, but the third one in, line 56, United Electrical Contractors, $24,777 for labor materials for generator.
That's for the,
I just-
that's
yeah,
for the fire department.
Oh, for the fire station, okay. All right, thank you very much, that was quick. The next page, NS Heritage Association, $435 reimbursement for a state flag.
That's part of, it's the first payment out of the $265,000 that they're gonna be doing, for the generator. So it's, they had already went out to,
Oh, no, this is the next one. So.
what number?
79, North Smithfield
79.
Heritage Association. Just, it's just a small,
Yeah.
$435.68 for reimbursement for a flag, so why reimbursement?
We have an agreement with them that we reimburse them for some things regarding some of the buildings for North Smithfield. So we reimburse them for some of it, minus taxes, of course. So those are some of the things that they upkeep for us. And that's part of our agreement with them, is that we reimburse them.
And are all those written, all those reimbursements?
I'm sure,
somewhere?
it is, I'm not.
We have a contract
Yeah,
with
we have
them,
something
or-
written, I don't have it available right now. But I
Okay.
can, yeah, it's somewhere
Okay.
for sure.
All right, thank you. Then the next page, number 11, Massachusetts Fire Technologies. So extinguishers, I saw that they were here throughout, the payment of bills, and I'm just wondering why we go to a Massachusetts firm. That was the only question. I'm not questioning the dollar amount, but just, is there any other around here?
Mr. Pendergast has a better light on that.
Okay.
The company that we originally had was a Rhode Island company, was bought out by that.
Oh, okay. We just kept up with them.
Yeah, we just stayed with them, they had all the records.
Okay, thank you. I think there's only one or two more, maybe one. Page 1 of the check register. James Lavelle for an overage for $4,087. Do you know what that was?
That's for taxes. It was based through his mortgage payment. They overpaid it, so we have to pay him back.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then the last one, page 6, on the dispatch section. It just seems like every month we have overages in that department, and I'm just wondering if there's, if you're aware of any reason why,
Well, the dispatch, well, at least in terms of anything personnel related, is going to be due to the personnel issues that the chief had described. I think it was last week or the week before. But outside of that, there really shouldn't be. Jarian and I are looking into every single thing that gets close, as you'll see next meeting. But everything else outside of that shouldn't. There's nothing else that's. Yeah, these are all personnel related. To
Yeah,
the
so-
personnel issues that they have. As
right,
of
like
current.
longevity in the MERS
Right.
and the defined contribution and stuff. So is it because we have different number of people in that department?
I don't
more
want to
than
say
anything?
exactly why. You would have to reference back to the previous meeting when he had talked about
Mhm.
it. There's a bunch of, some people had left, some are on leave, he had
Yeah.
to hire, yeah, it's.
And there was overtime as a
Right,
result.
right, it's a trickle effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Can I just ask one question? I see it, Madam President, if that's okay. I see it a lot on the check register, and I know it's cell phones. It's like $1,500 a month from AT&T.
Yeah.
I know that adds up over time. Is it required that we have to pay for everybody's cell phone?
For,
That's
for like
listed here,
fire
I don't know.
department and for
Yeah, it's
police.
probably, I'm just curious if AT&T is even the best.
Oh, well,
if there's
we've
cheaper
had,
options.
we've recently, I've reached out to 2 different companies, just to see if they could dive into our utilities, communication utilities, to see if we can get better rates. We really can't. I'm obviously always trying to see if we can, whether that be, Wi-Fi here or the cell phones, but whether that's a written thing that should be provided by the town, that I'm not sure of. whether that's, whether it's something we are supposed to provide.
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
entirely
police
sure.
fire makes sense, but I'm just curious if.
Yeah. Outside of that, I don't think there's the administrator, myself, do you have one? Yeah, the DPW.
Yeah, I was just
think it's
asking.
only a few like department heads outside of just fire and,
Okay,
and
I was just
police.
asking, it just catches my eye every time. And then the only other question I have is, I know we're heading into, I think, the budget next week.
Yes.
So I know that there's some accounts on the updated thing that you gave us
The
in terms
register,
of where
yeah.
we are, the status report. I guess if there's any accounts where you think we may be reserving money, if you could identify those, and then if you could also give us a list of what is reserved currently.
Yeah, yeah, so next meeting, with a budget hearing, and adoption, the council will be provided, the up-to-date budget with all the actuals, the current reserve of what's left. And then, I mean, if there's anything else that the
Okay.
council requests, I can try and provide it ahead of time.
Thanks.
But right now, we're trying to, it's the first day of the month, so trying to get everyone ramped up to get all their deposits in, all their expenses in, so that I can update all of the books to update the actuals between now and Monday. So it's provided to the council ahead, as far in advance as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any more questions? No? Anyone like to make a motion to approve the payment of bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of bills in the amount of $405,285.38.
That's a
Second.
motion. And we have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Next, old business discussion by council vote or other action on status/progress report of specific items. Mr. Ogier, the facilities manager.
We can just talk about during the budget next week.
Okay. And the next one is the Municipal Building Review Task Force.
No, the only thing is we have a meeting coming up Thursday,
Right.
hopefully. And we will give you more updates then.
And just to let you know that I did confirm with the solicitor, and as we talked about on Thursday, that we do not have to go out for any special RFQ, RFP to work with Eric Ami, because those are his.
Proprietary.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we're all set there.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe there's a walkthrough on the 5th, right? I think right now it's tentatively set for the 5th to just walk around and kind of review everything that's been done.
Can I just ask one more, just so that, because I don't know when any stuff is taking place, but just if, I just really want to know, like, if things have to be brought up to code, what is the mechanism for it's no longer, you can just use the existing plans, now you have to go the full code?
Oh, when I say walk around, I
Yeah,
don't
no,
mean
I'm
with
just,
their-
yeah, I'm just
okay.
saying for when, as he's doing his needs assessment,
Mhm.
that's just the one thing, because I think that's really important to know.
Right,
If, I know there's a percentage, and I think right now the focus is on just bringing it up to safe standards, but, if those renovations go further, I think we should know that. That's a much different project.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is discussion by council vote or other action on approving the extension of a contract for use of reserve funds for Mowry Tower. Ms. Pendergast?
Good evening, Ray Pendergast, Director of Public Works. You should have a correspondence from PAR Engineering to continue the evaluations for the Mowry Fire Tower. This amendment to continue is putting all the paperwork in order to prepare us to go out to bid for the improvements that we're going to look for. The total is up to $27,800, and it really, without me reading about 3 pages, it kind of explains all the documents and everything that has to take place, which is kind of extensive. And like I said, this is an extension of the original contract. The funds for this will be coming out of some reserve account that presently is $117,000.
How much?
Presently, $117,000.
May I ask?
Could Could Mr. Pendergast go down with G so we won't tie up all this time?
I'm done with it.
We're not done?
Jumping the gun there, Cliff.
Yeah, but we want to bring it up there, because
Yeah.
he doesn't have to.
We have to finish this.
We have to finish this one first.
Sounds good to me.
So,
That
Mr.
might-
Pendergast, can I, just for clarity, so I did read it over, and the original proposal was in 2021, correct?
Correct.
And so throughout this last several years, there has been work being done, and they've been meeting, and so they're looking to get some money from all those things that they didn't charge us, and also going forward to provide us with bid documents and all documentation that's necessary for, is that correct?
The funds for the original contract have been expended, which wasn't a lot of money.
Okay.
What happened was, this was kind of put on pause a little bit with the monorail tower that's just been finalized with Reamer. So in order for us to conform, and I'm not going to speak for the planning office, to conform with the regulations of the grant, which is in addition to this Mowry Fire Tower, we had to kind of put it all together, and now we have the road that's been put in, the tower, we've moved some antennas and some communications that are going to go onto the new monorail, so that there's been a lot of talk in the background, but now we can finally move forward and do the needed repairs for the Mowry Fire Tower.
Okay, so when we go out, after everything is completed, we go out to bid, then that grant will then provide us with the funds necessary for the execution of that?
That's correct.
Okay.
$140,000.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions? No? Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, I'll make a motion to approve the extension of a contract for use of reserve funds for Mowry Tower in the amount of $27,800 to Park
And
Corporation.
authorize the signature.
And to authorize signature of the administrator.
Second that?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Osier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Claire, did you want to make your?
All right, I believe that things are all set up for
Wait, no.
the
Can we
bids.
just, can we just make a motion to move that item up?
Oh, goodness.
You can just move it.
I'm-
You don't need a motion.
All right, you want to just move up that item?
That's G. The resurfacing of the basketball courts and seeing what's gonna happen to this volleyball court that's been sitting there unfinished for how many years now?
I'm not sure what's unfinished about it.
4?
So can we take the tennis court first?
Absolutely.
The tennis court has already gone out to bid. This was last year. We have, the project's gonna be around $60,000. This is to redo the 4 tennis courts that we control at the high school. Like I said, it's already gone out to, it's been before the council and approved. It was supposed to be done in the fall. As everyone knows, with the weather and the rain, they can't paint in the rain, so that's been pushed off. Now I'm getting dates of hopefully mid to late June, possibly into July. So
Great.
that's where I am right now.
Thank you on that.
Can I just have a point of clarification? Because Mrs. O'Hara just said basketball courts, but here's
I'm
tennis
sorry.
courts. So which,
Well, I'm
No.
thinking of the second one as well, but they need repair, and it was brought to our attention. And I just wanted to make sure it was down the line, because I thought it was the high school, but it's our responsibility, and you have it all in place, so as they call us, they got you covered, it'll be as soon as the people can start it, like June, July.
Yeah, the tennis courts.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely, I'm sorry,
It's already in motion.
very good. And while you're here, the volleyball courts have been, started 4 years ago or something? It's been a while.
Well, the beach volleyball court at Pacheco was a senior project.
Right,
um,
but they
for-
never finished it.
oh,
Well-
I'm sorry, can I address this? Because I'm going to be a little biased on this one, because it was my son's senior project, and that is totally finished. It's been finished.
It's been finished?
It's been finished for 4 years.
So that, well, what was a fence supposed to, they wanted a fence
There
on it
was
one
never a
time?
fence part of the project. What happened is his senior project was during COVID. He was gonna try and put the fence up. We could not get any fence companies to go out during COVID.
Okay.
And now fence pricing has tripled, but
I
the
can
fence was
understand.
not part of the project.
Okay. So that's the way it looks.
So if I can just jump in on that. Everything the council president has just stated is correct. So what we have decided to do is, so that we can somehow complete this for the senior project. It wasn't part of his project, but we want to complete the court. So we're going to swing the 10-foot existing chain link fence that was there for the tennis courts, the old tennis courts. We've been in touch with a couple of fence companies. And we're doing it under $5,000, where we're going to swing the fence all the way, go across, and set that up so it'll kind of close in the courts. So I have additional money from something else that I'm able to do. So that, if that's the part that closes it, that's the part that'll close it. That'll make it look
That's
nice.
great, that's
Does the
great.
volleyball court get any use?
Does it get any use?
Is there a league there, or?
We have a program. I do have to say that I'm really disappointed with the amount of vandalism in this town. Last week, they ripped down the volleyball court net, tore everything out of the place and threw it in the woods. So the basketball nets get ripped down every week. So we're pretty close to having cameras put up. I'm right there. They're waiting for the cameras to come in to install them. It's very frustrating for my personnel to go down there every week with the vandalism that's happening now. So now we have a youth program that's going to start after July 4th. I'm going to have to buy 2 nets because I'm not sure if they're going to rip the 1 net down. There'll be nothing for the program. So very frustrating right now. I'm not happy with the vandalism in Pacheco Park right now. So little vent here on my end, but
No, I don't blame
that's the
you.
reality of the thing. It's too bad. It's a nice resource, and the good kids are down there playing. It's what happens afterwards. So
But thank you. So when we get the calls, we can just
absolutely,
clarify it for them.
Just fire away. Send them down. I love phone calls.
Go have a game.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion by council vote or other action on application for tax stabilization related to business expansion RTM Realty / MTR located at 229 Quaker Lane Highway, Assessors Plat 001-470, Robert R. Hool. This is Mr. Biragad and Mr. Zelinski. Public hearing and discussion. Anyone like to make a motion to open the public hearing?
You'll make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Osier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Anyone like to speak during the public hearing?
I'm just going to repeat, Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I just want to repeat what I said at the last meeting. If we're always told, oh, we need businesses in town, we need businesses in town, and the first thing you do is give them a tax break. When you do this tonight, so I don't understand the logic there, so we ought to decide whether we want a bedroom community or do we want it to be a business community, one or the other. But and if you mix them, then let's be fair about how we mix them. I don't know what type of I don't know what the actual language is in the tax treaty, but I hope we're at least going to be receiving the same amount of revenue in taxes for that business as we did last year, this year. I hope it's not going to be a smaller number that he's going to pay from the previous year.
Only based on the new construction.
Just the part of the building that's the new construction. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
Can we ask for clarification on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Solicitor? Is it, or the assessor?
Jen,
is
did you
it-
want to get up and speak on this matter,
Well,
please?
it's an important point, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
So I just want to make it clear that it is not for the building. It is for the tangible personal property. For him creating the new 8 lanes and putting all that money into the business. So this won't affect until next year.
But it's for the
Yeah.
new, nothing, what
It's for-
existed, it was still gonna get taxed the same, that's all about the new stuff,
Yes.
right?
But it's on tangibles, not the actual real estate.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So, just to clarify then, I didn't realize this was for tangibles. If this is for tangibles, how does the new law on tangibles impact
I was
this?
just gonna
Because
ask that.
if it's less than X number of dollars, it's not gonna be revenue that we're
Right.
losing, or he'd have to pay, right? Because the state's giving it to us for less than 100, isn't it?
No. So on that spreadsheet that I gave everyone, it shows the depreciation from the tangible year to year, and it shows the new state law of 50,000 for all businesses. So a new law was put in place for any business that has more than $50,000 in assets. They would be taxed on the rest. So the first 50,000 in assets
It's
are
exempt.
exempt, and we get reimbursed from the state. So on that spreadsheet, it'll show that out of the total amount each year, plus the 50,000 off from the state.
Do you want to look at
Okay,
this
so,
so that you can refer to it while you're talking?
yeah,
that
so,
maybe you can. Because it does get confusing now with the new exemption and everything else.
So I proposed a 10 and a 5-year agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It'll show you his estimated cost was about 750,000. So it'll show the depreciation based on the tangible law. So it depreciates every year. Plus, it'll show the percent that he would pay on one chart, and the other chart will show the difference that the town is giving him. And then it also shows the $50,000 exemption from the state on each chart.
Okay, so can you give us an example of just like 1 year?
So,
Right, so let's say the first year, what are we will get nothing, right? It
Yes.
looks like,
So based on the ordinance and, in the ordinance, it states that the first year would be 100%. So the town would give him, so he would pay 0.
you pay 0 the first year.
Yes, and then
Okay.
it goes up. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, depending if it's a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan.
Yes. You know, well, we don't have it electronically.
so really, he's just taxed on the difference between the 50,000 and what it would have been. So in 2026, it's 67.5. 50,000 comes from the state, it's 17.5, so the tax bill becomes 763? Am I reading that correctly?
Yep.
Where are
Well,
you?
that,
10-year, I'm just looking at the 10-year agreement. So is it, it's the last column that really matters, that's the tax that is paid, right? But the net is the column before that, because you're accounting for the state.
yes.
Okay.
Confusing too.
Because wouldn't the value of the tangible property depreciate every year anyway, according to the schedule for the depreciation?
Yes.
So what's this number represent? Is that, if it goes from 712.5 to 675,000 in value, is that,
So,
is that a discount, or is that the?
no. So the first column is showing the depreciation based on the estimated cost of the new equipment in the business, and the depreciation based on the state depreciation table. That's the first column. The second one will show 100% the first year, so he would pay no tax next column shows the tax, it will show the tax dollars.
Less the 50,000,
Minus the
right?
50,
Yes.
right?
It's the balance.
Yes, and then the last column is the taxes that either, on one chart, it'll show the taxes that we're giving him, and the next chart will show the taxes that he would be paid, be due.
So chart 1 is the total taxes that would be due, and chart 2 is the taxes that we would be giving.
Yes.
Okay.
Who's up there? Come on.
So we're giving them 22 and getting 73, so
This our
half.
tax person. This our,
So this chart shows.
So, I'm sorry, so we can have either a 5-year or a 10-year, right? You gave us both options, right? Okay, so we know for sure in the first year, we get no taxes, which I think, you know, is what we're saying in a stabilization. That money would normally come to us, and now it's not. So it's a gift from the town, really, right? I mean, that's really what a stabilization is. It's really encouraging other businesses to either come in because we have a very favorable tax, you know, opportunity for them, right? So normally we would get 100% of that, correct? Yes.
But this is all these numbers are subject to change based on if there's any new purchases each year, or if he gets rid of anything. So it's hard to give an exact figure when I don't know if he's gonna, like, say something breaks and he has to buy something new for the business. So each year they report their new tangible equipment.
Right.
So I'm just basing it on what the cost that.
Can I ask a
took
point of
him to-
order though, but wouldn't you need to stabilize the current year? Isn't there a base year in the stabilization? If it's fluctuating all over the place, wouldn't that be hard to calculate?
It is, because.
And wouldn't it
I
defeat the
can't-
purpose of the tax stabilization at that point?
Yes, I don't.
You'd have to constantly be issuing tax stabilizations. Wouldn't you freeze it off of, say, 2025 and then
The
going
tax rate
forward?
changes, and the equipment changes. You can't freeze their taxes if the tax rate is going to change.
But wouldn't the value freeze and then just
Right.
depreciate?
The value does, but it all depends on if he purchases anything new or he removes anything.
But wouldn't that be
So why
taxed
would that-
differently? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that just be taxed at face value of the
Right.
purchase? I don't think I can vote on this evening.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused now. I would think that that value would freeze, and the only part of it would just depreciate and not fluctuate.
It does depreciate. Most likely, he's not gonna purchase anything new for a little while because he just put in all new equipment. But I can't freeze his assessment at a certain amount if he buys new equipment.
So I'm just gonna clarify, I can't vote on this tonight because I don't have, I'm not that I'm
No,
against
I
the
don't
tax
think we're voting
stabilization,
on
it's
it,
just
right? Are we? Oh,
we
is
are,
it
it's
tonight
just,
was the big-
it's a
oh.
question of the potential revenue is the question that I need answered before I can approve it. I think the tax stabilization, I think it makes sense, but I think that is important to know. How did we do tax stabilizations for the beef barn or for Planet Fitness, or how does any other community do them? I mean, it's just, it seems like we should know. It seems like you would freeze it.
flat,
And what does the ordinance say on our books so that we know? I mean, it must give an answer, I'd imagine.
So the beef barn was on real estate, and so that changes every 3 years minus the land value. The land value is not included in that number. So like each one's calculated differently.
So we can do tax stabilization for land and real estate, tax stabilization for tangible?
You can do a commercial business for
Right.
new buildings.
Yep,
So they moved and renovated that whole new building.
yep, that makes sense.
So it was based on the building and minus the land. The land's not included. So that was removed from that number that I gave the council for the beef barn. This is on personal property,
But does the ordinance allow for it on personal property?
yes.
So we can have one on tangibles
And how do,
and new construction.
how do we make that determination usually as to which one we would?
Currently, Mr. Hull has taken his machine shop, which employed, correct me, Mr. Hull, if I'm incorrect, roughly 3 employees. He did not change the footprint, he did not build a new building.
Right.
He took it, he rehabbed the entire building to bring it up to a very safe, both air-wise, for filtration, target-wise for munitions being fired in there, and it cost a lot of money. I think we heard from Mr. Hull last time he was here, 12, 13 employees.
Right.
He's expecting his business to grow. The reason this tax stabilization plan was written was to retain businesses. Let's face it, machine shops are kind of a dying industry, especially in Rhode Island. So to retain business in our town, this was written to give enhancements to the personal property itself, or for someone to build a new building. That's the two, new building or tangibles.
And I just want to say, I applaud you for what you've done. I mean, machine shops are terrible for the environment as it is, and I applaud you for expanding your business in North Smithfield, for choosing your business in North Smithfield, and to hire other people. I guess I'm just confused. The only thing I am confusing is, a question on is if you purchase new equipment, or if new equipment is purchased, that gets added to this until the period's over?
Yes, and then after they're out of that agreement, it continues. So Planet Fitness, when I looked at the Planet Fitness agreement, I believe it was a 10-year agreement, and they report to me every year, and the way it was done prior is what they report if there's new, like the value changes each year. So whatever they report goes into the system, and then based on the depreciation scale of what year they're in the tax stabilization agreement, 10%, 20%, then that's calculated from there. Because there's not a set rate. Like Planet Fitness, they had equipment from the beginning, and then equipment breaks, they buy new equipment, so they get rid of things and buy new things. So what they report to the assessor's office is put into the system, and then based on the year of the agreement, it's deducted, the 10%, 20%.
Can I just ask a question? So if a business makes a big purchase in, say, the 7th year, right? Does the depreciation of that new equipment take place on the depreciation value of the 7th year, or does it start at year 1?
No, it starts at year 1. So say
So it goes back to the
Yes.
original, so it doesn't, like, they can't make a big purchase at the end of 10 years and then
And it's
get the
depreciated at
huge,
7
okay,
years.
all
No.
right.
Okay.
it goes back. So it would be,
So you're gonna have all different,
Yeah.
like, schedules of this
Yes.
depreciation?
and we put it into the system, and it calculates it, and then based on that value and the year that they're in, that's what the agreement is, 10, 20, 30%, based on that year.
So they could have 6 different schedules
Yes.
within this stabilization? Okay. I think I
Fitness
understand now.
decided, which I think they do, they change their equipment every 4 or 5 years. So if they decide out with all the old equipment, in with brand new equipment, they don't get a new tax stabilization agreement in 5 years.
No.
Things don't start at 0 now, for now they're good for another 10 years.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was just,
Yeah.
yeah, so like if they buy something in year 7, they don't get like this 70%, whatever the depreciation value is,
Yeah.
it starts at the first year, and, because then it builds up as it goes, right?
Yeah, I should have included a tangible sheet. It shows like the year you purchase it, so it goes across. So the year, it changes each year. So next year you'll have 2025, 2023, and then say they purchase new equipment in 25. That would start at the beginning again.
Well, you did, Jen, I mean, on
she
this
did.
sheet right here, it
Yeah.
shows what the
Yeah, based
percentage
on
is.
him
Yeah.
not purchasing it.
Anything different?
Yes.
Right, right.
Okay.
Can you get,
Can you get up?
Yeah, sure. I don't understand how you can come up with $750,000 712,500, and then just, or 712,500, and then just depreciate it on the same percentage, or because all types of tangibles are depreciated at different rates depending on what type of tangible it is, so how do you know, are these all the same type of, I mean, they all fit into that same category that they depreciate steadily, or what? Can we get a breakdown on that?
So I went off the base of the 750,000 of all the new equipment that he put into the new business. And then from there, because I don't know what he's gonna purchase from year to year until I get that return, I depreciated it based on the Rhode Island general law, and I believe it's section 3, so all of it would be lifelong assets, and it's depreciated differently based on the state depreciation.
So you're saying that $712,500 is all depreciated, it's all long-term life assets?
Lifelong assets, yes.
All of it?
Yes.
Okay, so can you, no, I don't see that sheet.
Well, I can't give you that sheet yet because he hasn't submitted it. He doesn't submit that until
Then how
January.
do you know if that's the case?
Because I did a site visit, and I have my own spreadsheet that I took down of what equipment he has in that business. Now, because I had to submit this, so I had to take the value, the assessment, and put it into the spreadsheet. And then now, once he returns his annual return form, which he'll have to return in January, most of the 750,000 will be under lifelong assets. And then that depreciates based on the state depreciation table. Does that make sense?
So really, this is just an estimated number because it's never gonna know the exact number until we do it.
I can't hear your question, Mr. Clifford. Were any of the tax treaties ever based on the depreciation of tangibles versus real estate?
Well, you just said Planet Fitness is,
Planet
right?
Fitness was, yes.
They didn't do the building?
It was based on tangible assets, yes.
They didn't do the building?
No.
There you go.
Why wouldn't they have done the building, it was a brand new building, but they own the building?
Well, it's like the
Probably
lien that
not.
people have then sell afterwards.
I was not here
Probably
when
lease
they
it.
applied for that agreement, so I can't.
If you're asking about Planet Fitness, they do not own the building, that's leased from, Dowling Village.
That's what I said, do they own the building or is it?
Well, we tell us just
I believe they lease it.
Okay, do we have any more questions?
So, well, no questions, just an observation that it's an intangible tangible, right? I mean, it's hard
We have a lot
to
of stuff like
determine
that in the state.
what the values of the tax
Gonna close the public hearing.
stabilization will be, right?
Yeah.
That's my
No, I'm
only,
sorry.
yeah, no, that's, I'm just thinking out loud, you know. Okay. Should we-
I do wanna say, I don't see the number changing that much from the 750,000.
Mhm.
Because a lot of it is inventory and that's not taxable. So ammo and things like that, it's not taxable.
Okay.
So if something does happen, like say one of the iPads or something, then one would come off and a new one would come back on. But I don't wanna say it's never gonna change, cause it will, but I don't see it drastically changing
Mhm.
based on what kind of business it is.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question? Is that, is that a fair statement that most of the tangibles don't change?
Why are you asking Mr. Clifford?
No, he's not.
No, I'm
not.
not.
He's
asking the
No,
owner.
just, why would I ask,
asking Mr.
why would I ask Mr. Clifford? I see the business owner is right in front of me.
Oh,
Mr.
you know,
Hall.
Mr. Clifford.
The narratives that are getting created.
So I
So
would just like
I
to go
just-
on record.
Yeah, I just want to know, because that was why I said no, right? I mean, like, Planet Fitness is totally different, right? Or a coffee shop or whatever business, right? Those tangibles are changing over all the time, especially treadmills if they break out or whatnot. So that's a little bit different of an assessment, I think, if it's more
So
things that
I would
will
like to go on record that while the tax assessor was trying to answer questions, I find it somewhat difficult. I don't mean to speak for the tax assessor, but when you have someone sitting right there raising their hand going, ooh, 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 it's distracting for someone trying to give the information to town council. So if I may ask in the future, and this is going on, would you ask the individuals to restrain and use 3 minutes appropriately to ask their questions?
Is there anything else you wanted to, any other information that would help with this process?
I did, to the best of, these two charts are based on all the new equipment that he's put into that building. So I can only go off what I've seen and what he's put into it. As for years from now, I can't tell you what's gonna happen.
Right.
But I do know it's mainly inventory, so I don't see it, the value changing that much from year to year. Every year, once I get the return, I can submit something to the council, letting you know what that value is and what year he's at and what's gonna be reduced. But again, that's still based on the tax rate, so it's still a rough estimate.
Are those reports typical? For a tax stabilization, they report back to the council?
No.
I don't think we have.
I was just curious. I'm imagining there must be some reporting that takes place with these that can,
I do have to report to the state.
okay.
And the auditors get a copy of all of it too.
Okay.
Well, thank you for explaining a difficult topic, really. I mean,
Oh,
it's
one last question, Jen.
confusing.
Is it, so the vote tonight, is it on chart 1 or chart 2? That's the things we're discussing, right?
So I presented a 10-year agreement and a 5-year agreement.
Okay, I see them now, yep.
And then I just broke up the charts to make it a little bit easier to explain as the owners, what he would receive and what the town would be giving to show the difference.
Okay.
But again, it's up to the council if you want to grant a 10-year or a 5-year.
Yep, thank
So
you.
they're basically the same chart, just showing the number in a different way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam President, I hesitate to weigh in, but I
No,
can make
go
a
ahead.
point here. The way the council has done it in the past is, regardless of the depreciation, let's put that aside, because that's causing some confusion, because the depreciation will change depending once you establish the assets. But the number 750 has been verified by the tax assessor. That's a real number.
Right.
She touched the equipment. And the way the council has done it in the past is when they pass it, they say, because the first year is an exempt year, they say that this agreement is only based upon those tangible assets bought during that first year. It's not like.
To tie to this number. Is that what you
Right,
mean? Okay.
that's, so basically, let's put the depreciation aside and just use the straight number, 750, minus the $50,000 state exemption. First year, they pay nothing, instead of whatever your tax rate is on 700,000. Now, obviously, depreciation is gonna change, but you're still always moving from the 750 down. Depreciation may change, which is, I assume, the discussion, but the number, these charts are good indications of approximately the number of, the total number of 750. That's a real number. That's not an estimate, that's a real number. I spoke with the tax assessor this afternoon. She physically saw these assets. This isn't, that's not the estimate, right? The estimate you're making is on the depreciation schedule, not on the assets.
Yes, if we're not.
I think the council should be aware of that. This is really $750,000 of new assets that were brought on the property.
But there could be other assets purchased.
They're not subject to this.
Well, that's what
Well,
we're
that's what we
that's
were
That's the
just
debate.
told.
Well, other situations, the council has specifically put a restriction that says it only applies to the assets
Well,
on
that
the
would
property
make
on
more
the date
sense.
that you
That's what
sign. I
we've
thought
been
you were
asking.
arguing about
Correct.
depreciation.
No,
Oh,
it
no,
was the
no,
idea of
no,
new
no.
assets coming on, and I think there was some confusion over those things would
They'd have
fall
to
in,
apply
so.
for another tax exemption.
Okay, that's what
Right,
we
yeah,
were
that's
asking.
what-
Okay,
Okay.
that, all right.
That's what we
that-
were
And
asking.
previous ones, the council have put a restriction that says, to the effect that, and the one that I looked up in anticipation of this, specifically indicated that this exemption shall only apply to those assets that are on the premises as of the approval of this agreement. Otherwise, this person could bring in $3 million worth of assets a week after you approve it, and they'd say they'd be entitled to 100% exemption.
That's
Right, but
That's
that's
what I was
what,
asking, because like if they, in the
No.
8th year, they
You're
go and
only
buy
giving them-
millions
You're
of
only
dollars.
giving, my advice is, you gotta know what you're voting on. And
Right.
you're only giving an exemption based upon the $750 that she touched with her fingers
okay, that makes sense,
today.
that's how I
If he
interpret
wants to
it, but-
apply for another exemption, he brings $1 million more in, or let him apply for
That's
another
a
exemption.
different transaction with the town. Right,
I,
right.
absolutely.
Okay.
I think the only question that you should be wrestling with is the depreciation schedule accurate?
Well, that's what we were
And
discussing.
That I agree with. Is it lifelong? If these are lifelong, and I'm not a tax assessor, but if these are in that lifelong, if they've been qualified as a lifelong asset, then these numbers are real.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest piece was.
I think the
and we brought
council
up a
should put
few
that
ti- And we had
restriction.
like a 10-minute conversation of if a new asset comes in, I think, sounds like
I
it could
don't
have been
think a
answered in
new
just one quick
asset's gonna be-
sentence, so.
Unless you don't put that restriction in, I think you should put that restriction in, because otherwise you'll be giving, you're writing a blank check.
So you just come back for new tax stabilizations if so needed.
Right, you should have to approve it.
So I hate to ask, what about, we just were talking about another tax stabilization. Are we keeping a schedule and not holding them to their original value?
No, they're out of the program now. So
Okay.
this year they're out. But prior years, I just went off what the prior assessors have done. And it's based on the return, the depreciation, based on the state depreciation table, and then the year that they're in the tax stabilization with the town. But
Okay.
like he said, if new assets come in, it
Yep.
goes back to the top, to year one. It doesn't come in.
It's
to-
not what
That's not what
you're
you're
saying, right?
saying.
That's
though.
not what I'm saying.
Right.
But I don't wanna, I have not researched other.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
then
no,
we
I
have
just,
to
I
wait.
think,
Hold on.
I think the
Focusing
focus
in-
here,
I'm
Mr. Solicitor,
focusing in,
is-
if the council wants to vote on something that they know is real and tangible, to be ridiculously.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We know that this, if the tax assessor can indicate that this is $750,000 worth of items that she's touched, and you're willing to give a 10-year or 5-year tax exemption on that $750,000, other than the depreciation schedule, which we really should know pretty quickly what that is.
Well, that's
With
on
that
there.
estimate, is this, are you, that would be my only question, why we don't know that, but.
Yeah, I think it was just, they come back to the top. It just sounds like they keep getting added, and that's where
I
some of the,
disagree
that's
with
where,
that.
but that's where my questioning was coming from, so.
Could that happen? Perhaps, and maybe it's happened in the past, but I don't think that's not the way we do real estate. As you know, we don't do that in any of the real estate transactions. We don't, it's just one shot deal.
Right.
You get, we know at the end of the 10-year cycle, the whole real estate is on the tax base.
Sure.
The problem is at the end of the 10-year cycle, these assets are going to be depreciated, and you'll be being taxed them at a much lower level. Using the example, if it's a 5-year, the taxes at the end of 5 years, you'll be based upon $562,000 worth of asset value. At the end of 10 years, it would be based upon $375,000. So that makes sense.
So,
That makes sense to me.
so I
I
can't.
just throw that out.
yeah.
I mean, you can make that restriction, and I think
Right.
you should, otherwise you're not gonna feel comfortable voting.
Oh, no, I can't vote on it unless I know that we're consistently treating anyone who has a tax stabilization the same way. Right, so if we have Planet Fitness and they're being treated differently,
You said they're done.
oh, they're done? Well, or they were because of past practice or whatever, you know, so you come in and you pick up where somebody left off and this is what they did, and doesn't mean it was right. Doesn't mean it was right. So, I mean, I think what we need to do is have a consistent approach, look at the ones we have on the books now, try to figure out well, we do know what the depreciation is, but looking at the ordinance to make sure that we're following the ordinance that states that that dollar amount is the jumping off point and then continues either for a 5 or 10 year stabilization. It isn't a, it's called a stabilization for a reason, right? You're stabilizing. You're not adding, you're not buying something new and then it goes to the top and then it goes back and then goes, because that would make no sense in a business transaction, right? It just wouldn't. For us and for the, well, it would be for the owners, it would be great, but not for us. So I think we need to determine that before we move forward. That would be my opinion.
Anybody have any other questions?
It's confusing.
1 second. Anyone?
The gentleman that wants the tax, he's entitled only because it's on the books. He's entitled to it just like everybody else was. If you might argue that maybe we shouldn't have it, but nevertheless, it's on the books.
No, we should.
He is entitled
We
to
should
it.
have
Yeah, I don't think anyone's arguing
have
you
it.
shouldn't
You
have
should
it.
get
Okay,
it.
so he is entitled to it.
Right.
So,
Bless you.
Thank you.
I think that we should just go forward with exactly what, like you just said, we gave Planet Fitness one, we gave Beef Barn one, and the gentleman's entitled to the tax stabilization agreement. He did a great job. Years before he did this, he brought me in the back room. It was just a big warehouse area. He said, told me what he was gonna do. I thought, I don't see it, but he did it, because I've seen it done. It's impressive. And he kept it in town, and he's hiring people, and he's investing into the town.
Oh, I don't think the merits of his getting it are in question at all. And I encourage us as a community to try to make it appealing to people to add or to, to become more involved in the community. But my concern is that we have a disconnect between the ordinance, what the solicitor is saying, and what the tax assessor is saying. And all I want to do is make sure that is correct and that we're following the letter of the law and then proceed with it. I mean, I think you should get it. I'm not saying you
Right.
shouldn't get it.
So why don't we
Absolutely.
make it based on the assessment of the
The 750.
of the 750?
I could support that.
Yeah, so we make it based on the assessment of the
Let's get the
750
ball
and,
through.
Because that was, like I said, that was my only big question is, was it fixed to something and it wasn't quite clear? So if we make it
Right.
fixed to something, I think then it becomes a little more understanding.
Okay, we have some questions,
Do
and
you
then
have
we have
something?
questions.
No, I'm just, again, indicating, all you need to do is indicate that that's the restriction.
Right, that's what I'm
Then you
saying.
know what you're voting on, and if something in the future comes down the line, you can deal with it. I'm just gonna read you one that's on the books. I don't like the fact that we're referring to other ones, but this is one for
Just don't
Mark
even use the bid.
Stevens that was 1993 on your books. And it says, the town council in North Smithfield restricts the schedule contained, and they said 31OC, but that doesn't apply, a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan to apply to plant and equipment constructed and installed in years 1 and 2, and not to any subsequent expansions, extensions, or additions. So that way you know what the number is. So I think, clearly, I don't know what happened in Planet Fitness, but all I can tell you is the council should know what they're voting on. And I think you're voting on $750,000 worth of assets, is what I'm being told.
And that makes sense. I'm not debating the past ones, but I'm just, when the assessor said, well, they go to the top and there wasn't, and I asked, is it fixed? And there wasn't a clear answer. That's why I couldn't.
I get it.
I just needed to know it's
Council
paid.
makes it clear by adding that restriction, then you know what you're voting on. And I don't know what happened with Planet Fitness and other ones, but I do know Beef Barn was a real estate, you know.
That's right.
I don't know the other one, oh, I'm sorry. Beef Barn was a real estate one, so I don't know the other ones, what other ones were there, I don't know.
Planet, since I've been here, Planet Fitness and Beef Barn, and then now the gun range. But, so the 750 is based on that 10 or 5 year, but when you say like they buy new equipment, I was referring to the state chart. It goes back to the top. So say he purchased in 2030, he buys $5,000 worth of new computers.
Yep.
That goes into a different section based on the state depreciation.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, that makes a
Okay,
little more
but
sense.
not part of
So
the
you just-
stabilization.
Yeah.
Okay. They were kind of intertwined
Okay.
earlier,
And I was getting
so,
a lot of questions at once. and-
Yes, you were.
so it just
Okay,
follows
now
the
we
normal
got it.
depreciate, okay.
Okay, so it doesn't go, isn't affected by this at all? Okay. All right, does anyone have any more questions for the tax assessor? All right, does anyone have any questions for public hearing? Mike?
3 minutes.
No, just, in 3 minutes,
3
please.
minutes, please. How about one?
I'm just gonna comment that I believe when Planet Fitness did their presentation, you were at the meeting, John, I thought that they did a slideshow. Mr. Nato, if I recall, was the solicitor. And all those numbers were up in front of the public so they could see what exactly was happening. So this is quite different, Mr. Zelinski, than any other that I ever recall going to. So, you know, it would be nice if we planned them in that way in the future. And secondly, my recollection was not the same as to what Planet Fitness got as for what you're approving tonight. Maybe I could be mistaken, but I definitely thought it was a unique schedule that Mr. Nato and I think Mrs. Bartolomoli made a suggestion of amending it. And I don't think it's just cut and dry what this is. I don't understand what the rush is, because wouldn't this not have to be done until like December of 2024?
So this will come into effect in 2025 billing. So the annual return comes in January. And so this next year's tax bill would be, if you grant it, would be 0. And then going down the chart. And I believe the first meeting, it was on the screen, and then you had to have an open hearing. So that's why, I don't know why it's not up there now, but it was.
Was there?
Okay.
I still think it's not gonna impact anything. You don't have to do it right away. I just hope it matches what Planet Fitness did.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak while the public hearing's open? Anyone else?
President, I do think the real purpose of the public hearing is for the applicant to satisfy one of the 3 prongs of the ordinance of, I assume he can do that pretty easily, that he is going to add new jobs, or this keeps him from relocating outside the town, or come to town. It's either you're encouraging them to come, you're keeping them from leaving, or they're adding new jobs, and/or. So that needs to be put on the record, otherwise you have to make one of those findings.
Okay.
That's the reason why you're doing this, to keep the business here, to bring a business in, or to add jobs, and then the jobs. That's why I sent the
Well,
ordinance.
it's been yes to all
you.
3 of those.
Yeah, so Mr. Hool,
Well,
would you
I
like
don't
mind
know.
getting
Well,
up to the
you're saying
podium?
that, but that's not true. He's not a business out of state. is
No,
he?
he's kept jobs, he's added jobs, he's staying
why
in
don't we let
town.
him
Councilman,
speak?
it's up to the applicant to testify to that and for you to make that finding. It's not for you to.
No, but
say
he
it.
did testify to that last week, but if you want to
Oh,
have him
did
go
he?
up
I didn't
again,
know
then
that.
that's fine.
I missed
Mr.
that.
Hool,
I
do you mind just
apologize.
going up to the podium and
I
state
missed that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
the reason of the stabilization?
Yeah, I mean, I've added.
Can you go up to the podium, please?
Okay, you said what I added
Just
jobs.
state your name, please.
My name is Robert Hool,
Okay.
owner of MTR Guns and Ammo.
So
Quaker
can you
Highway in
just,
Huston.
can you just state the reasons that you're looking for this tax stabilization?
Yeah, I'm looking for some help from the town. I mean, I want to stay in town. I did a lot of work in this place, and I'm looking for a break. I mean, brought a lot of new jobs in. I've hired people. I brought more business into town from other states, people from Massachusetts, different parts of Rhode Island come up, spend money here, spend money at the gas stations, restaurants, and stuff like that while they're here.
And how many employees do you currently have?
12.
12. Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Hool?
Yeah, you said you added people though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So that would be that qualification for adding additional employees to your staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
we've added people, we've schooled people, and RA instructors. We've got people that teach classes. I got 5 instructors that teach classes on the safety of firearms and stuff. And we also instructed our own employees as RSO officers, range safety officers, make the place safe.
So when you opened, you originally had how many employees?
There was just me and another guy.
Okay, and now you're up to 12?
Yeah.
Thank
Yep. And probably 5 instructors, part-time instructors.
Okay.
Yeah, that are all certified in the firearms industry.
Okay,
We offer lessons, we offer, all kinds of stuff.
okay, great.
On rentals, training.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Hool? Thank you very much.
You know what you gotta do?
What's that?
You gotta have gun cleaning service. That's the worst part about shooting, is having to clean your gun.
In time.
Okay, so anyone want to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
We have a second, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Anyone like to make a motion in regards to the application for tax stabilization for RTM?
I'll make a motion. Based on the tax assessor's number, was it 73,629, is that correct?
I think you want to do the 750.
Where is that?
750
I'm in the
total
wrong
value.
column, right?
Up top, Joe. Go on the first sheet here, there's 750. Right there. 750.
750.
What's it say?
It's the first
On the
page.
top.
It's 712 on his.
No, but it's 750, it's number 11
Oh,
on
there
the
it is,
front,
I'm
on the
sorry.
front page.
Okay, based on the tax assessor's a value of $750,000, I would like to have MTR enter into a tax stabilization agreement for 10 years. What was that?
And based upon the evidence of establishing new jobs,
Yeah, based on the evidence that he provided just now, establish new jobs, willing to stay in town, and expanding his business.
that's fine. And then just that it's subject to the restriction that is the equipment that's on the property as
Yeah,
of
subject to the restriction, like I said, of the $750,000.
$50,000.
That's my motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Madam President, may the council also authorize that I work with the assessor to draft that agreement,
Sure,
so it's clear what it is?
sure. Someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion for the solicitor to work with the tax assessor to draft the tax stabilization agreement.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Good luck, Bobby.
Before you leave, Mr. Toole, some of these people do not know how your entire family invested in this town. You had 2 different properties, St. Paul and then on Industrial Drive. And did a lot for the schools and everything else during that time. So it's a family affair for you guys. Thank you.
I don't want to stay here.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on award of bids for North Smithfield High School. Mr. Seepy?
I'm here for Alan. So there's a few of them. So to start with, we have the bleacher replacement and the flooring replacement. Both of these items are going to be ran through the revolving fund, but this school is going to be reimbursing us. We do it through that so we can get money back, obviously. But because it's going to the revolving fund, we just need council approval to expend it. And then, obviously, I'm going to keep track of what they spend so that they reimburse the town properly.
Okay.
We get reimbursement? they'll get reimbursement like 35% or
Yeah,
whatever?
it's, I'm not sure that between 30 to 35%, but they're gonna reimburse the town for what's being expended through the revolving fund.
Okay. So you want us to go one at a time here?
That works, whatever the
So
council
the
desires.
gymnasium, is that the first one? Is that-
Gymnasium bleacher replacement.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the North Smithfield High School gymnasium bleacher replacement. This will be paid through the fund balance, through the revolving fund, and reimbursed to the town. The bid attached is $97,790, and alternates form $18,700 for a divider curtain. So the total, do we have a total?
What, are you doing the bleacher, you said?
The bleachers, yeah. So it's just those $2 amounts, is that,
That should be good.
oh no?
That one is 97,790.
Oh, so the alternates with the divider curtain, that's also on here. So is that something we want to?
I think that's fine.
You think? Not the 18?
No, I think you can, I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to speak.
So it'd be 160 and 490, no? Is that what I'm looking at?
I think so.
I would just, there's also another alternate too that you should just want to keep in consideration. If you're Summingum for another 8360.
But that's not on here.
No, but I'm just saying it's, I don't know if that would at some point be considered.
That's the one.
So I'm just, there's a third number out there. I'm just,
So this is the amount, and then they're talking about the
Okey dokey, let's see.
Yeah, we should be adding both alternates, the 18,750 and the 8360.
$124,850? Is that what you get?
Yep.
They better have pads on those bleachers for that price. I'll make a motion to approve $124,850 for North Smithfield High School gymnasium bleacher replacement with 2 alternates for divider curtain on the existing wall and moto folder to open and close the bleachers.
You stated the 97,000, correct?
Yeah, correct, 3 items.
Council,
Correct, yes. For a total of $124,850.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Osier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. And then the second one is gymnasium flooring replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah, 218,360, no alternates.
I'll make a motion to approve the NSHS gymnasium floor replacements from AMSCO, using the fund balance to the revolving fund in the amount of $218,360, no alternates identified.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Discussion?
Go ahead.
I'm not convinced, I'd have to see, I've been to that gym a lot, and I've actually been on the floor a lot, helping out. You gotta convince me that floor, maybe I'm wrong, but I would like somebody to show me why the floor needs to be replaced.
Okay.
And if they show me, I'll support it, but I'd have to see it.
Okay, I'll rescind my motion,
I'll rescind my
and then
second.
maybe we can get an answer at the budget meeting next week.
That's good,
All right.
yeah.
And we'll just adopt,
All right, so we're
approve
just
it then.
gonna table this one?
Just that one, yeah?
Okay,
Good.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll request, well,
Just the backup.
yeah, we'll have the superintendent here anyways, so.
Yeah,
No, I don't
maybe-
want them here, I wanna see it.
Yeah, like-
I want someone to
Yeah,
go there and
yeah,
say,
you
this
gotta-
is why we
Basically-
need the floor replaced.
Okay, then you contact the
I'll take care of
superintendent.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
Or picture, well, maybe
I'd look
pictures so
at
we
it.
can
I'll
all
take
see
pictures.
it,
Oh,
yeah.
good
Yeah.
idea.
I'd look at the floor, and the bleachers are not handicapped accessible, so they've gotta go. They're one against the other, there's no center aisle.
Yeah, I totally agree with the bleachers thing.
But I think the floor has to go too.
I don't know, I could be wrong, but I gotta see it.
And maybe when the last time the floor was done might be helpful too.
I mean, there's a couple of areas that I think they need to be fixed, but I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
It's a big amount.
Discussion by council vote or other action on engineering services for air conditioning at the North Smithfield Middle School.
Same thing, so this was, I was there when they presented this to the budget committee. So Lisa and I had talked today, depending on what comes back from the engineering services for this and how much the project might cost, will determine on whether we want to run this through the revolving fund or they're going to take care of it from their own fund balance. But to get to that point, we need a council approval if this does end up going through the revolving fund. So
John.
we don't want to run the revolving fund all the way down for a project that might be 400,000 and the revolving fund only has 400,000 in it. So
When that middle school was built, wasn't it set up that air conditioning could be put in that relatively easily? Because those top floors have no cross ventilation. Get little windows like this, and you have, what, 22 kids sitting in there.
Yep, you're right.
It's half
Yeah,
the,
shoot, no, that's before my time, I don't know.
it's half the size of what the classes were at Hallowell. I mean, there's no activity anywhere. You sit in a chair and you're lucky you can get in the corner and get your coat. And I feel if teachers are gonna have air conditioners and air-conditioned places and other staff members, let's get that top floor and the second floor done at the middle school for those kids, because it's unbearable.
Yeah, that was always a bone of contention, I remember, with that project.
Right? Really, it was.
It's like, what are we doing with a brand-new building and we have a floor that doesn't have air conditioning?
And plus, there's no cross. I mean,
So we're looking at, this is a proposal just for an analysis, correct?
see how much it's going to cost.
Just to determine the cost?
They said somewhere around 400,000, but we don't, that's a shot in the dark between Lisa and I. We have no idea.
Do we know how often they would even run do we know how often they would even run the AC?
I have no, I'm not sure of that. That would be either, that would probably be an Alan question.
So maybe when they
Maybe we
have
should-
these things come forward,
More
that the
detail.
school could probably be here to, you know, back them up and give us some information on them, because, you
Yeah,
know,
I'd like that.
Can we do this, what we did with the gymnasium floor? I
Yeah.
just think for $400,000, I mean, I know springs are getting hotter, and I know falls have been really hot of recent, and I understand the heat.
We're not approving the 400, though.
No, I'm saying
No.
the 18 is still a lot. I mean, what if it goes nowhere? You've just spent 18,000
Yeah,
for 400,000 that you're not gonna
but I
spend.
think they should be here to
I agree.
basically,
Yeah, just to
you
know. I'm not opposed to it, I just want
Yeah.
a little more detail, that's all.
even if it's not air, they need some type of ventilation in those upper
They
classes.
do, it's brutal up
It's
there.
stagnant even in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing.
You know, I
Yeah, I just
just,
don't know if it's
I
centralized.
want people to realize it's not even the coolness.
Yeah, no, I
You
get it.
need some type of air.
Yeah.
I think the air exchange up there has always been a problem. Cubic feet per minute was never adequate. So whether it's, you look at air conditioning or at least improving the change of the airflow up there.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
okay, so we're gonna ask them to come for that also?
Um,
Tony?
yeah, do you want that during, I mean, they'll be here, some, good majority of them. I don't know if Alan will be here for the budget committee meeting, but these won't be
Well, if they're
approved items.
requesting the funds, they should send who needs to come to answer the
Yeah.
questions.
So they'll be here, the budget committee meeting, but I guess I'll put this as an agenda item for the next scheduled town council meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, discussion by council of other action on budget questions or concerns, Mr. St. Ange?
Yeah, as previously referenced in other meetings, if there's any more questions, I've had discussions with VP on a few items that he was questioning. Just, you know, kind of anything I can bring to present for the budget committee, for the budget adoption. I just want to be prepared. If there's any more questions that you want to pose now, whether I can answer them now or later.
One of the questions I have is I saw that the General Assembly passed their budget, and it looks like they funded additional
School.
school dollars. So do we know if this town is gonna get additional funds? I know that's been a point of discussion. I know they were saying it was decreasing, but it sounds like it went up. they didn't follow the governor's proposal, so.
Yeah, I have
just
to look at
curious.
that. That's,
Makes
yeah, I'm
no
gonna look into
sense.
that.
Might impact where we could spend some funds.
Yeah. I didn't, usually I get those points of communication. I didn't get anything, so that's a surprise to me. I'm gonna look into that, definitely.
Just be good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
1% could be a lot.
Restored it, yeah.
And then in prior years, we always got like the big copies of the budget, so there's room to, I think they were like 11 by 14. So
You
we
want the
can
11 by
read
4,
them
okay.
And make notes on them and stuff. Does anyone else have anything else regarding the budget?
Nope. I asked a lot of questions, and I'm sure they'll be answered at the.
So when is the
meeting.
actual, when are we doing the budget?
Monday.
Next
Monday.
Monday, the 10th.
And if we don't finish, are we meeting on the Tuesday?
The 11th, there's a meeting planned for the 11th as well. That's usually, I mean, historically, it's finished one night, all in one night, and then the next night's like a half-hour meeting, just going over the proposed rates. Maximum half hour, judging from last year.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
We did it.
Monday and Tuesday.
2 hours, remember?
Yeah. All right, anyone else, more questions on the budget? Are we all set
Nope,
to move
I'm
on?
set, thank you.
Discussion by council vote or other action on review and amendment of town charter before a local question certification deadline of August 7th, 2024. Mr. Osier?
Thank you, Madam President. So, what made me think about this agenda item is, I remember early on in our term, we seemed that there were some areas of the charter that, maybe some of the language needed cleaning up, or there was some, changes that could be made, and I know I talked about a charter review committee, and I know we decided that the council has the right to act on that, and it just seemed that didn't go anywhere. And so, I saw an email from the clerk about ratification of amendments by August 7th, and so it got me thinking, if we were to make any proposed changes, time's ticking. It's not out of the realm that we can't do it. I haven't seen anything that says we can't do it. And so 2 of the things that I was thinking, and I'll throw it out to the council for discussion, is I know a lot of times, and I've heard a bunch of us up here, that when you're first elected, 2 years is short. And so I think if you look at surrounding communities, Burrville, I know our school committee has it, you could stagger the terms, and I've heard from a lot of people that a staggered term might make sense for the council. You could do 3 seats, starting in, like, say, 26 or 28, whenever you wanted to start it. 3 seats, the first time would be a 4-year, or 2 would be a 4-year, and then the other 2 would go in a subsequent manner. And then another thing that I know I've heard from a lot of constituents or a lot of residents, is looking to shift towards a town manager. It's something that, a lot of communities are moving towards, just given the sheer cost of salary. I know if you look at the budget committee's proposal, I think they're around $95,000 for the administrator. Some local communities are around $130 to $150 for a salary. And I think that it may make sense to move in that direction. It's not anything about any administration or anything like that. I know there's term limits, and I know there's other things as well, but I just think it seems to be a direction a lot of communities are moving. And I just wanted to engage the council and see what their thoughts were as well.
I think it's a good idea.
I'm not getting any of it. I've never, other than one specific group on one specific page, I haven't heard a single thing. Nobody's ever reached out to me about going town manager.
Oh, I have.
I've heard from a lot of people. I don't even engage social media, so
No, I
I've heard
haven't
from a lot
no,
of
I'm not
people.
saying you did. I'm just saying I haven't heard a
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, we're probably one of the few that has an elected town
There's a couple.
CEO now, yeah, a few, right? But, I mean, if people are, it's up to them, right?
Right,
You
put it
can
out to the voters. See.
As a question, and if they say no, they say no, and if, that's it, but if they do, then, I have heard from
Have you?
people, yeah. I mean, not banging my door down, but, I mean, it has been a discussion over the years, several times, and several times we've tried it. And several times it's been rejected as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of having an independent town administrator that does not have to worry about pleasing the council and working at our, basically at our request. I think when we elect people, just the way the founding fathers did it, we could elect someone great, or we can elect, someone awful. We can elect a great president, we can elect an awful president. But it's up to us to decide. And I lean towards an elected town administrator, because I don't want to see one person being beholden to the council.
But I don't disagree with you on voter rights. Being the republic that the US is, you would then elect the council to ultimately have some say in that, right? So you would be electing people to make that decision, and if that person didn't pan out, you term them, they're gone, they're an employee at will. It seems to work in a lot of communities in Rhode Island, and it was something that made me, like I was saying, it was just something that got me thinking, and was wondering if, we move forward or try it again.
They have it more in Massachusetts than Rhode Island.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So do we need to make any,
I'd be in favor of that.
I mean,
Well, we do have to bring something forward.
at least what I would say is
Yeah.
if the council's okay, I could work with the solicitor over the next couple of weeks and
Right.
put something together and then see if the council even wants to go forward with that.
Sure.
And then if not, then it stops. If it does, then, we keep going, and then ultimately the voters would decide.
Well, I think if you're going to do it, this is a good year to do it, because of the presidential election, you might get a more representative sample of the people looking to make a change or not, so yeah, I don't think having it in a special election or anything like that is a really good idea at all.
yeah, no, I agree. So do you want a motion?
Madam
to,
President, I would just make sure that the council wary that you should definitely have a public hearing before you
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say
put
that.
something on the
I was thinking,
ballot
yeah.
for voters to
Like
vote.
July or something before no, I agree. And I would like to work with,
2020.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just
and-
saying, once you determine what your question is, then you should schedule a public hearing on that question, which means the question could change. You gotta get that done before August 6th, because August 6th is the deadline with the Secretary of State for the submission of referendum questions.
I figured if the council allowed me to move forward, we'd pull up
So-
what the.
Yeah, I mean,
was
we don't have a lot of
proposed
time.
and modify as
Pretty
needed.
straightforward,
Yeah, it's pretty
though.
straightforward.
Right, but don't have a lot of time.
No, I agree.
You should focus in on a few questions, a major revisit, review of the charter, you should form a committee.
But yeah,
like you
I'm
did
not
several
talking
years
about
ago.
drastic overhauls.
Madam President, I just want to add to what you, one thing that I thought about a lot is, right now, our current policy is if the 2 or 3 weeks between Election Day and Inauguration Day, currently, if somebody is unable or unwilling to fill their seat, then according to the charter, we have to go to a special election, even though we just had one. So I would like to put something forward for a charter change, saying that just for that 2 or 3 week period, the period after Election Day and Inauguration Day, if someone that was in the top 5 is unable or unwilling to take their seat, then that seat automatically goes to the next highest vote getter, instead of going through the expense and the time of a big election when we just had one a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago.
yeah, because it's a certain time frame, right?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody after the election decides to bail, or for whatever reason, then the charter goes over that and says you gotta have a special election. But just for that short period of time, 2 or 3 weeks between Election Day and Inauguration Day, I would like to see the seat go to the next highest vote getter.
But in the past, haven't we appointed people if someone passed away, et cetera?
If they, after, with less
Within
than a
like a
year
year.
left, with less than a year, the council appoints. With more than a year, we have to have a special election. But it would be a waste of time and money to have a special election when we just had an election a week or two ago.
And the voters
And the voters,
wanted a certain
Correct.
person anyway, yeah. Yeah, well,
is that something that could be drawn up, or? You understand my point, what I'm trying to say?
So maybe we
Some
can,
towns go more than that, some towns go a longer period than that.
Well, that could come out at the public hearing as
I'm
well.
not saying that you want to do that, but some towns have a longer period.
That could come out at the public hearing as well.
As opposed to being filled by the council, some towns say that last year, or something to that effect, the last 6 months, goes to whoever the top, a year left or less goes to the
next
next highest vote getter.
Okay.
But if you just want to focus on that, it's very specific, very easy. If you're going to really evaluate all those others, there's about 4 or 5 options out there.
Yeah.
So it's up to you whether you want to go, how deep you want to go into that. But if you focus on that, that can be done.
so maybe we just list something similar, and then we can just itemize them like we do for old business.
But you understand that there's lots of charter amendments throughout the state. There's 39 cities and towns. They all have created different charter amendments for different reasons, whichever way the political winds were blowing, right? So you look at them as examples, not as the holy grail.
Yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah. That
Well,
make
there's no
sense?
politics behind this. I mean, I don't know who the sixth person's gonna be.
No,
It could be somebody that I don't
No,
even.
I'm not saying you have politics, Council. I'm just saying, when you look at a charter amendment, it happens to be in Lincoln, it's not the holy grail. It's just that that
It
was
just
what
happens.
Lincoln did, because they had the votes.
Right.
And you go to Exeter, and
It's different.
they don't even have a police force, right?
Right.
They don't want a police force, because they don't want to pay for it. State
They don't
troopers
have a
do it,
police
compliments of the state.
Right.
Well, who gives them
All right, so
tickets and goes to the...
do we want to make a motion to have you work with the solicitor?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And
Who wants to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to have Vice President work with the solicitor on a number of potential ballot questions to be placed in the November ballot, and to make sure that we reach the August 7th deadline, or August 6th deadline for the Secretary of State.
Do we want to mention anything about the amendment to the charter? Ballot questions for amending the charter?
The deadline's
August 7th, I think.
August 7th, but I think you have to have a public hearing before
Yeah,
that.
so I think you would want to
Yeah.
present something at the next council meeting and then schedule something for.
So I think the only other question I have for you is, if the council as a body is going to weigh in on this, then the only thing I could say is, there's nothing that prevents you from submitting a request one way, as long as there's no discussion. So if you want something to be evolved into that discussion, that beyond what's been discussed today, then you need to, my thought process, you should submit them one way without asking for a response, and say, I'd like this to be considered something, if you want, because we're gonna have to move pretty quick. I mean, to have a
Right.
public hearing, we're talking, your budget is this month, and then July, and then people's got vacations, and you're gonna try to get this done, have a public hearing. I just think you're gonna, it gets really tough when you're trying to do
Yeah,
something
because
like
don't we normally just have one meeting in July,
I
right?
think that's it, and one in August, I think, too.
Yeah, but I think in the past it's been multiple.
Has it been?
I think the last time charter amendments were proposed, there was a few meetings in July.
Yeah, but the last time it was a charter review
Yeah, I know, it was a much bigger deal, I
established.
know, I'm not going down that
And
path.
that that charter review worked for over a year
I know,
on charter amendments. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
we tried
All
that
right, well,
one.
we'll try and do it as quick as we can, right?
Yeah, we can, then we'll just
So,
bring it back to the
I guess
council.
the question
and if
is
the council-
all the council can satisfy, other than Councilman Beauregard, that it's just gonna be the VP's ideas that are gonna get presented at the next meeting, that you're either gonna decide to have a public hearing on, as opposed to, it's not gonna be an evolving, ongoing discussion.
Oh,
Maybe
no.
you get another meeting out of it, but not much more.
No, it'd have to be at the
No.
next one, you cap
I
it and
think
move
we
on.
have to be concise.
So I would say, how about this, why don't we put an item on the public hearing date
Right.
that says if the council has any ideas they want, they'll bring them up at that meeting. So we kind of close the door on it, so we go to work, and I'm just trying to come up with a way that nobody gets left out, and it's
Yeah,
just the
that's fine.
VP and I in a room coming up with
Yeah, no,
charter
that's fine,
amendments.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Want to keep it
I
open.
see.
So what date do we want to,
You want to pick a date for submission of, and then put it on the agenda for ideas to be submitted?
Yeah.
Then start drafting?
I mean, do you want to wait till the 7:15 date?
7:15 might be tight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about
So-
one of
Next
these
week.
public hearings.
Oh,
It's only for the council to submit ideas without us getting caught up in open
So when
meeting
you say,
violations.
when you say public hearing, you're talking about just a general discussion on a council
like
level?
now.
Like now, okay. I
Like
think the
say
next
next
meeting.
week, or whatever meeting you have in June, you
6/17.
say, any council
6/17.
person will submit whatever idea they have that they want.
So by
to be-
6/17, the next council meeting.
That'll be the next
And
meeting.
then we can go forward from
And
there.
then you and I will go
All
and
right.
turn them into something to
Right.
put, present,
Okay.
and they'll vote up and down at a public hearing.
Okay.
All right, and then we can reassess as needed.
So Tammy, are you all set with that?
I just put the same item on.
Yeah,
Put this same item on,
we can itemize it or whatever.
what is it, what would you call it? This same
Item I.
Discussion, action on,
Amendment of
amendment to
charter, right.
Okay,
You can put this exact same item on it and just.
so just carry the item over.
Yep.
And then just do public hearing?
No,
No?
not that.
Okay,
We don't not that we have questions, that's for you to submit your ideas.
okay.
And if we want to
Alright.
keep it to one meeting, we should probably just target the 15th anyway.
I'm just trying to make sure that I'm just trying to make sure the everybody in the council gets to submit something if they want to.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And have a discussion about it.
I agree.
Okay. All right, so we don't need to make any motion or anything on this?
No,
It's on the
Okay.
agenda.
carry forward.
The next one, okay?
All
Very
right.
good, thank you.
Open forum.
Do we want to do open forum and let it? go?
Yeah, why don't we move up open forum for agenda items only pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Does anyone want to speak in open forum regarding agenda items only?
Joey Savigny, 1790 Pound Hill Road. Thought for the charter, I know we brought it up last year. In the charter, I believe the town administrator's budget has to be presented at pretty much the start of the budget hearings. I'd like to see that move to the end. At the end, it gives us a better opportunity to see where his numbers actually are, because now he has 2 more months of numbers. I really don't need to see his numbers at the beginning of the meeting. I want to hear what each department has to say and make my own assumptions, and then look at his numbers at the end and compare what we have to what he has. It's just something, if we're going to go through all this work, it's going to be something worth looking into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So can you make a note of that for your?
Yeah, I made note of that, Joey. I made note of that.
Anyone else like to speak in open forum for agenda items only?
If you're going to review the charter, I wish you would put some language in there about a penalty that could be assigned to an individual elected official who violates the section of the charter. Because as it is now, if there's no penalty for violation of the charter, in the charter, even if an individual were to sue the town or the person for violating the charter, the judge won't give you, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, the judge won't give you a decision. He'll say, yes, they violated the charter, but they won't give him a penalty unless it's defined in the charter of the town. So he's nodding his head yes, so I think Mr. Josie is in agreement that that's what it's written. So I wish we could put something into that effect. And also for some type of reason to, some language dealing with removing an elected official for cause. And what other communities do for that, because that's an ugly situation too, if somebody's convicted of something. What do you do?
Well, there's a
Those two things I wish you would.
Thank you. Anyone else want to get back up, speak to public forum, open forum? Okay. Executive session, closed session, discussion by council vote or other action pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 2-46-5A5. Any discussion, consideration related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property wherein advanced public information would be detrimental to the interest of the public. 1, potential acquisition to land, and 2, potential acquisition to land.
I'll make a motion that we move into executive session.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Osier.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.